We have former White House Economic Policy Director Todd Buchholz here. Todd is the author of a book called The Price of Prosperity, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. It tells us why nations like ours that are rich sometimes fail. So stay tuned. That's my idea of the tease, Todd. Stay tuned. In a moment, we will tell you why America is about to fail. No, just kidding. So first, I do want to ask you a little bit about the current day economy and right. Janet Yellen, the Federal Reserve Chair, since she's about to speak, how she's been handling it. Because, boy, the role of the Federal Reserve is interesting, isn't it? It's a big role in the stock market, and the economy, and everything else.
Well, and they're certainly under scrutiny, especially by the Republican Party. I was just thinking, Janet Yellen's, of course, going to give a dull speech because that's her job as Fed
That's
chairman.
Why we're talking to you now, and then we'll go to the Q&A.
Well, I was just saying, can you imagine if Donald Trump were Fed chairman? He'd stand up there and say, economy bad.
That's right.
Look, I was on this channel back in February, and I said the Fed was acting arrogantly because in December it raised rates, which was okay, but then it warned it would be raising rates 4 more times during the course of 2016. Well, obviously the economy cannot handle 4 rate hikes this year, and that jobs report was rather sobering.
It was bad, wasn't it? Oil, by the way, off earlier highs, a little bit under $50 a barrel as these Yellen comments hit the tape. The jobs report, did you take anything big picture away from that to say, boy, we're in real big trouble?
Well, look, it is 1 month.
In other words, are we headed towards a recession, I guess, is the...
You know, here's the question. Is it the pause that refreshes, or is it the pause that depresses and depresses the economy? I was concerned, actually, not so much by the jobs report, but the jobs report combined with what we've recently heard from the automakers.
Okay.
Because autos have really been leading the charge for the economy and giving the vigor that it has to the extent it's had any vigor. And I'm a little concerned about consumer spending at this moment.
I'm going to bring up full screen, guys, if we can, a look at the markets. Todd, I think your microphone's giving us a little bit of an issue. We have an expert technician on the scene to check it. Here, 106-point gain, 107, just about 17,009 is where we are in the Dow. Janet Yellen signaling the Fed's still on track, ready to raise interest rates, as Peter Barnes reported to us. Todd Buchholz is our guest, formerly at the White House. His book, as I said, we were going to talk about it anyway. It's called The Price of Prosperity. It is an interesting time, isn't it, to talk about this, because it's the idea that nations, not necessarily when they're struggling, but when they're not, when they're rich, sometimes when they're at the top of their game, that's when they start to show signs of failure. Are you just talking about us, or is there more to it than that?
No, well, certainly it's the U.S., it's Britain, it's Europe, it's Japan. You know, lots of people have written about and come on shows to talk about how poor countries fall apart. Yeah. What do we do about Libya and Syria and Sudan? But rich nations fall apart, too. We just celebrated in our family my wife's grandmother's 100th birthday. When she was born, there was an Ottoman Empire. There was a Habsburg Empire. I've never met an Ottoman or a Habsburg. Have you? None of us. They're gone. And those were rich, dominant empires.
Well, one of the things I had a chance to read through part of your book over the weekend that you point out I think is interesting is that we start to see the birth rate starts to decline. So we have fewer babies being born, whereas to your point about older people, we have a lot more older people, right?
Well, that's right. You know, traditional societies used to size up a man by counting his children. Now we count, what, Rolex watches and Twitter followers and six-pack abs. Children have become, for wealthy nations, kind of like pets. It's a luxury. You don't need them to work as farmhands.
Well, we have far more pets, don't we, than children? I mean, like it is a weird analogy to make. I know you make it in the book, but it's just like we're more interested, for whatever reason, as we get more educated in having fewer children and maybe more pets. I don't know if there's a lesson there or not. But.
Well, look, ask any parent. Kids are messy, they're loud, they're noisy.
I have 3 of them, so.
Yeah, there you go. You know, and you could, no matter how badly treated a minor bird feels, he'll never slam the door cage and scream, "I wish I would never was born." You know, kids do that all the time. So on the other hand, we need children. Obviously, children bring moments of rapturous love, and they pay into Social Security and Medicare. And help support the social programs.
To be serious, right? Are we? Is it somewhere where we could put a timetable on something like this and start to be concerned in X, Y, Z years because, to your point, of entitlements or something else? Or?
Well, that's right. Look, back in the 1950s, you had 15 to 20 workers for every retiree. Now we're getting to the point where it's just 2 workers per retiree. The numbers just don't work anymore.
Right.
And of course, we're not hearing much serious in the political campaigns to deal with any of this.
No, we're not dealing with any of that. I mean, and we tried to put a commission together.
I mean, thank God Donald Trump's had a lot of children. I guess that's a good thing. He's contributing.
No, but seriously, we really don't hear, I don't think, I mean, back in the 2000 campaign, for example, they used to talk all the time about the lockbox, and it became a big issue.
Yeah.
Now, you're right, it's hardly a mention of any of that kind of stuff.
Well, that's right, because it's a tough sell to reform Medicare or Social Security. But if we don't, we're in trouble.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic, generally speaking?
You know, I'm generally an optimistic guy. I'm not one of these perma-bears who comes on here and tells people, buy gold because the world's going to... I don't believe that. I think... I kind of agree with Winston Churchill, who said the great thing about the Americans is they always make the right decision after they've tried everything else. So I think we're going through a period where we are failing and faltering, and it's at a dangerous point, and we've got some tough decisions to make.
Just a question of where we are and all that, I guess. Thank you very much, and good luck with the book, The Price of Prosperity. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
That's great. Thank you.
Todd Buchholz there.